What's up, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas back on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. Buffalo Bills post-game reaction show each and every week. Win, lose, or tie, I am right here to recap everything that went down with the Buffalo Bills and their opponent each week, unless it's their bye week, throughout the NFL season this year, as well as last year, and many years prior to that, and many years in the future. Here we are. The Buffalo Bills losing this one 20-17 against the New York Jets. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Whether you're a Bills fan or not, whether you're a football fan or not, I really appreciate the support. The majority of the people tuning into this are Bills fans, are football fans, and you guys and gals have been awesome in terms of supporting the show. I want to remind you guys, in the bottom left corner, you see my social media. That's my Twitter handle, at Ryan Thomas Take. You can find me there on Twitter. You can find me there on Instagram and communicate with me a little bit more. I really love communicating with Bills fans from all throughout the nation as well. You can like the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Facebook page and subscribe on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate the support. It's been a hell of a ride, a hell of a run. I've had the chance to meet a lot of awesome people over the years, and I look forward to meeting many more for many years to come. So with that being said, I want to remind you guys, as I am chiming in on how I feel about this Buffalo Bills loss against the New York Jets, I want to remind you guys to fire away your comments in the comment section below. Wherever you're tuning in, I'll get to your comments as quickly as I can once we get to that portion of the show. This show will last probably a good half hour, 35 minutes, 45 minutes in terms of discussing what went wrong at Metlife Stadium for the Buffalo Bills today as the Bills fall to 6-2 with a shocking loss against the New York Jets. A loss that there's a lot of layers to this loss that I want to peel open. Layers of the onion, if you will, that made many members of Bills Mafia, myself included, shed a few tears, as onions tend to do when you crack them open, right? That's the joke. So 20-17 is the score for this one, and to be honest with you, a lot went wrong in this game. A lot went wrong, and I don't really know where to start. But I'll start with this. Judging last week's win, 27-17, the first half by the Buffalo Bills against Green Bay was spectacular. The second half was lackadaisical, was lazy, was slow-paced, and really the Bills just looked like they were out of their element. I couldn't really explain why at the time, but I saw a lot of seeds of that in this game against the New York Jets, in particular in the second half. And I think I've narrowed it down to a few things. The two facets of this team that I had the utmost confidence in over the last 6 quarters have tremendously let me down. Tremendously. We'll start off with number one. That would be the Buffalo Bills' run defense. The Buffalo Bills' run defense last week against Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon of the Green Bay Packers was probably the worst facet of their whole team in that game last week. You carry that into this week, going up against James Robinson, the newly acquired running back of the New York Jets from the Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as Michael Carter. No Breece Hall, arguably the best talent on the Jets. No Breece Hall, he blew out his ACL. He's on injured reserve. He's out for the season. So you knew you'd have Michael Carter and James Robinson going toe-to-toe with the Buffalo Bills front seven. And a running back's ability to get through that first yard, second yard, that's a given. If you can't get a yard or two on any given carry, you're not even going to make it in high school level football, modified level football, let alone NCAA, National Football League level offenses. They were going to be able to do that, but getting to that second level, then, God forbid, the second level misses a tackle, third level, and you're really talking about getting gashed as a run defense. And the Buffalo Bills run defense today was gashed in the second half, especially in this game. Fourth quarter, we're talking about the New York Jets with the ball, what is there, 8 minutes left in the quarter. That clock gets whittled down bit by bit, piece by piece, as does the Buffalo Bills defense, to the tune of that clock being at 1 minute and 43 seconds once Buffalo has the football back. And I think the run defense is a concern because I know one thing is coming. Winter, November, December, and I also know the Buffalo Bills schedule. In particular, next week, we'll just go to next week. We have a team in the Minnesota Vikings who love to run the football. Their best player is Dalvin Cook, who's a pretty damn good running back. So the Buffalo Bills are going to have to get that figured out in terms of their run defense. If they can't stop the run in the dog days of the season, we're going to have a long second half of the season ahead of us. That's my first point. My second point, and what has disappointed me these last 6 quarters, granted, maybe we'll say the second half against Green Bay and the second half against the Jets today, is the fact that the Buffalo Bills offense, I feel, has given more power to the quarterback. And I'm not saying Josh Allen hasn't earned the right to play with this off-the-cuff style and play on the fly and things of that nature. That's what his game is. That's largely what gets him going. That's what gets the juices flowing through him and the juices flowing of the guys around him. But I think we would be overzealous in saying Josh Allen has earned the right to be a Peyton Manning or to be a Aaron Rodgers or to be an Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. You get the point in terms of calling his own offense play by play and really dictating not only the play but dictating where the ball's going to go and dictating. To me, there are moments in this game where Josh Allen was really running the entire show, and he was forcing things a little bit. He forced things last week. He forced things this week. And that's why the stat line looked like it did today. No passing touchdowns from Josh Allen, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And I go back to the beginning of the game where you have a golden opportunity with the Jets tripping over the placeholder that holds the football. And Josh Allen's next crack at it after that is throwing an interception. And an interception that is one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. I know this guy is better than that. I've seen it. We've all seen it. I can't describe the miscommunications that we've seen on this offense these last 6 quarters. I can only describe it as miscommunications, as did the broadcast when they're panning out, they see the play, they say, well, hey, this interception happened because, Josh Allen thought that somebody was going to be here when they weren't there, so he threw the ball there, and it turned out the DB was there instead. Miscommunication, whatever you want to draw it up as, it's been very frustrating to see this type of play from a quarterback that I think is far better than that, dare I say it, the best in the NFL, and has proven that and has shown that he's the best quarterback in the NFL many times. But these last 2 games, even in a win against Green Bay, we saw some things from Josh Allen that we're not accustomed to. So if, in fact, these are miscommunications, how do these miscommunications prevent themselves from happening the next time out? And I'm going to talk about that. I think, as well as the offense, in terms of entrusting Allen to kind of run the show, run the whole kit and caboodle, there has to be a little bit of a question as to who has allowed him to do that. Who has made that possible? Sean McDermott's made that possible, and Ken Dorsey has made that possible. I think Ken Dorsey has had a phenomenal first, X amount of games as an offensive coordinator for the most part. But I think today showed me that Ken Dorsey has played more quarterback coach to Josh Allen than he has offensive coordinator. And I think this team has to go back to playing within a game plan. Today I saw a version of the Bills offense that was more worried about the splash plays than nickel and diming, taking what the defense gives you, and just being methodical. If I was Sean McDermott in that halftime locker room, I would have said something to the tune of, we need to be more methodical with this type of team. Because I will say this, the New York Jets deserve a lot of credit for this win. They really do. I'm a fan of being a sportsman. I'm a fan of giving credit where credit is due. The Jets did a lot of things right today, and the Bills did a lot of things wrong. And in doing those things right, the Jets put together a game plan and stuck to their game plan. Did Zach Wilson win the Jets this game? Certainly didn't lose it for him. Did the New York Jets pressure the Buffalo Bills offense in ways that I don't think anybody's been able to accomplish? I think so. And how Buffalo can kind of come back from that, essentially, is what matters the most. This game has already happened. The score is the score. It's the final score for a reason. It's in the past. It ended at 4 o'clock. It's 5:46 as I speak here right now on the show. And you're tuning in thinking, how can the Buffalo Bills come back from this? What needs to happen? I think this team, rightfully so, has had a lot of hype on them. And I think this team, rightfully so, had reason to believe it because they are talented. But in the National Football League, a bad team can beat a good team, and a good team can beat a great team. And I think the Jets are a good team. I think they've added a lot of talent to their roster, a lot of young talent. And you think of it this way, one team in the New York Jets has a ton of young talent on it that is hungry to prove that they belong. Whereas the Buffalo Bills, they've been, the toast of the AFC, knocking on this door, trying to kick it down to get back to a Super Bowl. They got a target on their back. The Jets don't have a target on their back. The Jets are just playing to get better and to try to win games, to try to have an identity. The Buffalo Bills already know their identity. And I think that's a huge advantage, actually, competitively for a team to kind of go in and be a little bit of a freewheeling team with a game plan, mind you. Not freewheeling in the sense that you're being lackadaisical and trying to just be splashy like the Buffalo Bills were today. The Bills really did not stick to any sort of a game plan. I don't know what their game plan was for this game, to be quite fair. I think initially they went out thinking, we're going to play Buffalo Bills football, right? And they went out, they played Buffalo Bills football, and it wasn't quite working as well as they were accustomed to. Did they adjust? I think there were moments where they showed that they knew how to adjust, and yet they were more worried about putting together the splashy play than just being methodical and winning ugly. Winning ugly is winning. At the end of the day, it's chalked up the same, still a win. I wanted to see the Bills win this one ugly because Robert Saleh's team demanded that the Bills win ugly if they were to fall short in this one. They're a very well-coached team. They're a very well-disciplined team. And they didn't ask Zach Wilson to win this game because they knew that he couldn't. He's not at that point as a quarterback yet to win games for the New York Jets. He's at a point where if we run the football effectively, if we pressure the opposing quarterback, and if you don't turn the football over, we can win a lot of games, whether we're against good teams, great teams, or bad teams. If we follow that formula, we're going to find a way. Whereas the Buffalo Bills went into this one, as they have many a times, successfully, mind you, and said, we are going to out-firepower your team. Our team has more firepower on it than yours does. We're going to out-firepower your team in a shootout. We have a bazooka. You got a Colt 45. Well, the guy's got the bazooka. He's loading the bazooka with a big, trying to put it in. That revolver, Colt 45, just needs one shot to the head and you're done, right? In the stare down, the Western stand down, or stare down, stand off, something like that. So I really feel this one is a great one to learn from. Not a moral defeat, not a moral victory in any sense of the word, because this game they lost. They flat out lost. This game they got broken down, beaten down, worn down, and lost this game. And I think where they go from here is in terms of the attitude that they show. Whether it's positive or negative is the question. I haven't really seen much of the post-game reaction from these players. I've seen Josh Allen say you can't win if your quarterback plays like shit. And you can't. And Josh Allen did play like today. He didn't play his best football. This was probably one of Josh Allen's worst games in recent memory. But how he bounces back from it is the key, because the game's already over. I think a long look in the film room between Josh Allen and Diggs, Josh Allen and Gabe Davis, Josh Allen and Dawson Knox, as well as Josh Allen in this new running back room that they have outside of Devin Singletary with James Cook and now Nyheim Hines, who I think Nyheim Hines could be what could help save Josh Allen in terms of when things don't go right, you need a safety valve. You need somebody that can turn a 2-yard catch into a 25-yard catch. And those guys are few and far between on this offense. I also think Ken Dorsey needs to take control of the offense, take the reins of the offense, know the package of plays that Josh Allen likes, of course, and say, hey, when we get to this package, let me know what we want out of here, and we'll see what we can do with that. Not, hey, Josh, here's this playbook. Go have fun with it. I don't think that's the right approach to take. And the only time it has been the right approach to take is when you're talking about a guy like Peyton Manning, who could have and could still be an NFL head coach. It just had a different brain. Josh Allen is a different athlete at quarterback. You put plays together for that athlete to be a different type of athlete. I don't think Josh Allen necessarily has to do the Peyton Manning approach, because not many people have, and the people that have tried it, it's rarely worked. So that's just something that I want to throw out there in terms of the next point of emphasis as far as where things went wrong. Gary Park says, I'm a fan and I'm not worried about our season. They played subpar, but it happens. Hope Josh is okay. And that goes to my next point. Towards the tail end of this game, Allen's rolling out. He's trying to find an open receiver, not rolling outside of the pocket. He's within the pocket, but he gets hit as he throws it. And he's coming up a little bit, funky on his right arm, his throwing arm, his forearm, it looked like he was clutching. So that's something to monitor. And that's the last thing this team needs is him hurt. Don't get me wrong. You guys know I'm a big believer in Josh Allen. This was just not his best day at the office. But if you say, oh, it's not my best day, that's not necessarily giving credit to why it wasn't your best day. You're just saying you didn't have a good day at the office. There's a reason why these things played out the way that they did. And how the Bills bounced back from that and how the Bills attacked that is the key in this one. And beyond in any loss. Eric Williamson says, as much as this loss sucks, there's a lot of season left. Take care of the division games at home, and they'll be fine. 6-2 on the season. Great record. First in the AFC East, but 0-2 in the AFC East. And Sean McDermott talks about it as he should each and every season. Easiest way to win, or the easiest way to get in the playoffs is to beat the teams within your division. A couple years back, 2020, Buffalo was 8-0 in the division. Now they're 0-2 in 2 games against the AFC East. 1 loss on the record against the Dolphins, 1 loss on the record against the Jets. Both losses on the road, mind you. So to Eric Williamson's point, he's feeling pretty confident that once those teams come back to Orchard Park, New York to take on the Bills, the Dolphins won't be the same team in that 115-degree heat. They'll be playing here in December. The Jets playing here in December as well, with Zach Wilson playing in front of 75,000 screaming, maniacs. And I say that with love in Highmark Stadium. So we'll see. I think if you were to, this is an interesting take that I have based on what I saw from the Dolphins and Bills game and based on what I saw from the Jets and Bills game. And it goes to Eric's point in terms of taking care of business at home and they'll be fine. So I want to, let Eric know I really appreciate that comment. But looking at the Jets and Bills game and looking at the Dolphins and Bills game, I have a newfound theory as far as which team, Dolphins or Jets, that I find more versatile, more dangerous. And yes, I'm going to say the New York Jets are more dangerous than the Miami Dolphins. Call me nuts, call me crazy, but the Jets find a way to stick to a game plan with limited talent and win, whereas the Dolphins, an uber-talented team on paper, are playing a shootout essentially every week, whereas the Jets are bringing a team down to their level as far as minimizing their scoring opportunities and trying to play turnover-free football. I feel like their style, led by Robert Saleh, is far more effective. And yes, it's a pass-happy league. It's a firepower league now in the NFL. And the Dolphins they're humming. But I think it's better to burn out than fade away. I don't quite know if that style is one that can get them to where they want to be. Whereas the Jets are playing disciplined. They're not committing many penalties. They're not turning the ball over. They're running the football effectively. They're playing like it's 1975, and it's working. And I actually appreciate that because there's a lot of newbies out there that are saying, well, run game does not work in this world's National Football League and in this day's National Football League. To hell with that. That's dumb. Running the football, not turning the football over, and playing good defense is the oldest formula in the book to winning in the National Football League. So Dan says, WTF, this was a horrid game for our squad. What do you think the Bills should do? And that goes back to, what I was saying before as far as what I think they should do is that you got to get in that room and watch the tape and find out why these quote-unquote miscommunications are happening, because they should not happen, and find out why there was no halftime adjustments as well. To Sean Reeves' point, no halftime adjustments at all. It's very interesting to me. And Sean Reeves makes another point that Josh Allen has not been the same Josh Allen since before the bye week. And the bye week is where you're able to make those adjustments over the course of that week to prepare for your next opponent. And that's what concerns me the most, is that against Green Bay, they had all that time to prepare for Green Bay. They should have blown Green Bay out of the water. And that second half, they looked like hot garbage. And then carrying that into this week against the New York Jets, where did the Bills look like they really controlled this game? Where did they look like they had conviction in this game? It was all about, how are we going to outsplash the New York Jets? And that was not the way to attack this team. The way to attack the Jets, honestly, establishing the run game. Each and every single week I talk about this. And I'm so sick of it. I really am. This is the biggest thing that ticks me off with the Buffalo Bills out of anything, out of any loss. When they win, this pisses me off. Seeing CBS Sports after the game, the stat sheet, Devin Singletary, 7 carries. Devin Singletary, 8 carries. Devin Singletary, 5 carries. Granted, Devin Singletary he gets touches. Touches and carries are two completely different things. If you guys don't know that, you might be watching the wrong sport. But touches and carries are two completely different things. Devin Singletary gets the touches that I still don't think are enough. He certainly, sure as hell, does not get enough carries. You will not win in the playoffs. You might not even make the playoffs if you can't establish some sort of a run game. And when I look at how this game kind of devolved, it was with the simple fact that the Buffalo Bills, Ken Dorsey, OC, playing quarterback coach today in the booth, allowed Josh Allen to kind of freewheel this offense into, I'm going to pass the football, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to run around like I'm in my own Sandlot in Fireball, California, and that's not going to win anymore. We're past that. We're past that based on the guys that we have. We're past that based on we can win any way we want. So why choose that way? That's the way that you win the least amount of times. This is the NFL. This is not college. This is not high school. This is not modified. That style is easy to defend. And I think in this game, we saw that kind of freewheel style offense where they just tried to outsplash the New York Jets. And the New York Jets didn't give a damn about that because the New York Jets weren't trying to, they knew they couldn't outsplash anybody. So they had to play this game downhill. They had to play this game controlling the clock, keeping Allen off the field so that when Allen was on the field, he would have to play catch up. And then when Allen is on the field, he's more worried about his yards per pass attempt. And I'm not saying it like against Allen, but that is the style that they feel comfortable playing on this day today. And it was the wrong approach. Completely the wrong approach. Zach Troutwine says maybe Kareem Hunt would have helped him over Nyheim Hines. And I think when I posted shortly after the Nyheim Hines trade went down, and I'm going to paraphrase because there was a lot to it, but when I posted that I wanted a Christian McCaffrey, I wanted an Alvin Kamara, I wanted a guy that could be a home run hitting running back, I don't know if they have one, even with the addition of Nyheim Hines. I don't think Nyheim Hines has ever been called a home run hitter at running back in his entire career. I know what he is, I know what he's not, and he's not a home run hitter. Devin Singletary, not a home run hitter, but they don't need necessarily a home run hitter. They just need some sort of semblance of a run game. And they have not even tried to do anything like that over the course of this season. And I thought Ken Dorsey would, and I'm a little concerned that he hasn't. And we're talking, I said this a year ago. Week 10 was when the run game really got started by Brian Daboll in his last year with one foot out the door as the offensive coordinator. Ken Dorsey's got to do better than that. Because Ken Dorsey's in his first year as an offensive coordinator. He's got to build upon this loss and look at the grand scheme of things. I'm the OC of this team. I'm calling the plays. I'm calling the shots on what plays we're running on a play-to-play basis. I'm in the booth sending down the signal. And am I privy to that? Am I privy to Josh Allen calling the plays? It sure looked like the tempo of this offense was that Josh Allen was calling the plays from his wrist sleeve. And to me, that was not needed in this game. This was not the game to do that. This was the game to impose a run game, implement a run game, and get the ball methodically down the field. West Coast, Bill Walsh, down the field. The defense of the New York Jets was a defense that was going to pressure Allen, and we have the guys on quick outlets to put him in position to succeed. And Ismail Valentin says, where were the screens with an aggressive defense? We talked about it all week long. The addition of Nyheim Hines would help their screen game. Devin Singletary can catch. James Cook can catch. They were successful in doing that even in this game, and they deviated away from it. So that's a good way to, throw that out there. As far as a comment, in terms of comparing and talking about all these things, I think there's a lot to discuss. Joshua Williams, OBJ still wants to be a Bill. As far as I'm concerned, that's an awesome story, but my head is not even there anymore. I need to figure out. I need the Bills to figure out how to come back from this one, because this was one that the season can go two different ways now. After this loss, if they don't rally back from this loss the way that I think they should, the way that I think they can, the season could go one way or the other. It could go completely downhill, or they could rise above it and be a better team and play the way that I think they can and know they can and have seen like they can over the last couple of years. But if they don't do that, then it's going to go the other way. And I'm reading these off of my Facebook, because I have people on my Facebook tuning in too. Sean Reeb, with all due respect to the comment on Cole Beasley, I'm glad Cole Beasley's not a Buffalo Bill just as much as he is. So we'll just leave it at that. I do think, to his point though, maybe the lack of a slot receiver, with Jamison Crowder going down, with Isaiah McKenzie, he's been hit or miss these last couple weeks. Hoping to see more from him next week against Minnesota. Khalil Shakir was not seen at all today. There were guys on this team that just weren't allowed to be seen based on the way Allen decided to attack this game. And honestly, you guys know how much I enjoy Josh Allen. I really feel like this was a game that the way Allen decided to approach this one was one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why they lost. Outside of the run defense. The run defense is just as much as I'm concerned about the offense and how this, materialized. The defense is really what has me concerned. In terms of the run defense, there's no reason that why in Tremaine Edmonds' 5th season, a running back is able to get to that second level and just run right past him. And so many people, I heard it on WGR, inexplicably, I heard it on WGR, not from a host, but from a caller, that, I don't really understand this thought that, well, if Matt Milano is out, Tremaine Edmonds is not going to do as well. No, that's not how I think, in the very least. If Tremaine Edmonds is out there and he doesn't make a play, that's on him. That's not on Matt Milano not being in the game. That I don't understand that rationale in that thought process that if somebody is out, it's going to hurt a player that's actually playing. Maybe so, but in the instance where a running back has one move to make and that player allows them to make it, run right past him and miss a tackle, then that's on the player that's on the field. So I really was frustrated with the regression of what I've seen as what I've said as his best season so far in Tremaine Edmonds. Today was not his best day, to say the least. And I think that there were some questionable calls in this one. I am going to say it. I have to say it. I think it even goes down to the last play, the final play. Pardon me. I thought that the corner on, I believe it was Diggs, that was the final, pass attempt, was draped all over him to the point where the broadcast said he was shadowing him or something like that, and they show it, and his hands are in his face, his arms are under his arms. I thought that was terrible. And granted, no ref wants to make that crucial of a call that late in a game, but Get your head out of your rear end, throw that flag, make the call that you consistently make in the second, first, and third, first, second, and third quarter. No pass interference calls on 2 straight drives that ended with pass interference. It makes me sick. It really does. And it makes football unwatchable when they're so inconsistent. They're so inconsistent. There's no consistency whatsoever in the game. I think, to my talking point about Tremaine Edmonds, too, playing 2 jobs is the wrong approach. Do your job. Bill Belichick says it. A lot of coaches say it. Do your job. Stick to what you need to do. Don't worry about Bernard, Terrell Bernard, 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, rookie linebacker that is playing in the spot of Matt Milano. Do your job. Focus on what you can focus on. Control the controllables. I hear that all the time in the workplace. Control what you can control. Don't worry about your coworkers doing X, Y, and Z wrong. Focus on what you need to do right. And whatever happens after that happens. I really feel that this game was a game in which the communication between the defense was off. The offense was worrying about being more aggressive and showing more firepower than actually running a methodical, efficient offense. It made no sense. It made no sense to me. And that's really the take of the game. 17 points. The New York Jets did a lot of things right defensively. They pressured Allen. They forced him to step up rather than step out. The run game, you didn't have to worry about the run game if you're the New York Jets because Buffalo does not want to run the football with the running backs. They won't do it. So that's a phase of the game that going into the game, it's like, well, do we prepare for this because Buffalo doesn't do it? Should we even bother? Guys, girls, I just don't understand why we can't run the football or why we don't run the football. I don't get it. I really don't. And I hate it. The style of defense, we're relying on the secondary. The secondary has had Hyde, Poyer, White out, and yet this defense has found a way secondary-wise to do pretty damn good. Today, Wilson, the wide receiver for the Jets, he had probably one of his best career games. He's been waiting to break out, waiting in the wings, waiting for Zach Wilson to actually look his way. And when Zach Wilson looked his way once, he did it again, and that guy was Mr. Reliable, Mr. Wide Open. And I think we got to get Trey White back. I think we're at that point where it's like, okay, we're ready to get Trey White back. The question is Trey White ready to come back? We've been ready to have him back. I know these guys have played really well. Trey White's one of the best players on the roster when healthy. So I'm looking forward to that. Minnesota is a tough game. Minnesota is a battle. Whether they're coming here or not, whether Kirk Cousins shows up as, David or Goliath, that's the question. If Kirk Cousins shows up and he's on, that's a tough game. If Kirk Cousins shows up and he's QB 1B Kirk Cousins, that's been overpaid his entire career, then we're going to be okay. But we got to get back to the film room and find out why the hell these miscommunications keep happening, because they've happened the last 2 weeks post our bye. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You got Dalvin Cook, you got Justin Jefferson, you got TJ Hawkinson lining up for the Minnesota Vikings, and that's a team that has a fairly good defense. That's a team that's rolling in there, trying to get a W on the road. It's a big game. With this loss against the Jets, next week's home game against the Minnesota Vikings is that much bigger. It's an opponent that's across the way in terms of being in the NFC. It's an opponent that the Buffalo Bills rarely play, and vice versa. Every 4 years they're playing them. And it's an opponent that's had a real good season. They're leading their division. We're leading our division despite being, 2 losses in the loss column within the division. I can't believe that, guys. I really can't. I can't believe that they lost to the Dolphins and the Jets. What the hell? It just... I don't think the Dolphins are the better team. I don't think the Jets are the better team. But on these 2 instances, the Buffalo Bills guaranteed themselves a loss in the sense that they played down to the level of the Dolphins, played down to the level of the Jets, allowed the Jets to really do whatever they wanted to do, allowed the Dolphins to really do whatever they wanted to do. We didn't do whatever we wanted to do. We only do that, it seems, when we're playing a team that, on paper, justifiably, has proven to be better than us, like a Kansas City or a Tennessee that we had trouble with prior. Where are those Buffalo Bills? That's the team I want to see every single week. Team that beat Kansas City, the team that beat Tennessee, team that beat the Rams in week 1. Where are those guys? Where was that energy? That's what I want next week against Minnesota. So there you have it. That is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Buffalo Bills post-game show. I tried to bring it, today. This was one that really fired me up. This is a loss that will stick with me just in terms of hoping that I don't see more of this loss in next week's game. And this could be a seminal moment in the season, one way or the other. As I said, it can go positively or negatively. Depending on which way this goes, we'll look back at this game and say this was a turning point for better or for worse. This was that game for me. Not the Miami game. This was that game. I think the Jets are just as dangerous as the Miami Dolphins. And people will look at me like I got 5 heads when I say that. And I know I look like I got a massive head already. But when I look at the Jets, they're winning with less talent. That, to me, makes them more dangerous. Miami's winning with talent. The Jets are winning with less talent, especially on offense. There's no comparison on paper between the Dolphins and the Jets on offense. It's laughably different. But the coaching of the New York Jets, Robert Saleh, deserves a lot of credit for what he's doing with that team. I would say this, too. All the love and admiration that Brian Daboll's getting as the coach of the New York Giants, where's that love for Robert Saleh? I think he deserves it. I'm sorry, I think he deserves it more, especially after this one. Alrighty, Sean McDermott back to the drawing board. Josh Allen back in the film room. That Bills defense, that run defense, eat your Wheaties leading up to this next one against Minnesota. You got Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison, TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. But which Kirk Cousins are we going to get next week? That's the $1 million question. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Go Bills.